Hello and welcome to Guys Dealing with Feelings, the podcast dedicated to addressing men's mental health issues and providing practical solutions. I'm joined by my friend Jason, who through years of professional and personal experiences, including trauma and recovery, as well as over 17 years of being a licensed therapist, and my journey being profoundly shaped by the tragic loss of my son, we're here to share what we've learned and continue to discover along the way. Hopefully, if you like what you hear, you can share, like, all that good stuff. What's up, Jason?
Hey, man. Howdy, howdy.
All
Happy
good, man.
Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Yeah. So today we are going to start again. I know I think I've said this a couple times because we do these broader topics that they'll turn into more topics, and they will. But this one I think we'll maybe tackle in a row, and it's culture and the effect that culture is having on us as human beings. We'll speak specifically here in the U.S. how what we're dealing with as we have personal experience that goes with learned experience, especially in Jason's area of expertise. So anyway, we tackle a topic like this to discuss all the alarmingly high percentage is that of rising numbers. So anxiety, depression, suicide. And if you're just talking, we can narrow that down to just males if we wanted to stay on that. But I think it's in every human being. And, I've got some speculation that just off the top, we on the surface think it's we're bound immediately by the fiscal. So we talk about this regularly, and I think this is important, maybe kicking us off. Like, we think if we just had more money that all our problems would go away. And we can look at people who've got lots of money and they've still got lots of problems. They could even have more problems because they have so much more stuff. Like, with 5 houses comes 5 roofs, that have to be fixed. So anyway, money is not the answer. So if you're broke and think, well, this is stupid, my only problem is money, I can tell you that no, that's not the only problem. And maybe if you fix this problem, the money could come behind it. But I digress from that. So Jason, when you hear in the United States specifically, these staggering numbers of anxiety, depression, suicide, et cetera, and I'm sure war is part of it, because war is definitely part of this damn culture. So what do you hear when you hear that? And then maybe we can walk that back and get into some root issues.
Yeah. Well, let me say this, right? I like asking deeper questions. It's not even that I like asking deeper questions. It's just the way that it is for me, right? And so I know when we get into a discussion like this, we get into topics that most of us don't really give a whole lot of attention. It's not because we don't have the capacity to understand these deeper concepts and dynamics and mechanisms of human life. It's just that we're too stressed and traumatized and busy, and all our attention is just in a direction that keeps us on a hamster wheel. And so for me, so reflecting on an idea like culture, it just helps us. So I guess I just see it as a reflection, right? And it helps us have more awareness, more self-awareness, right? So that's the intention. I am aware that for 4 decades of my life, even though I have been a quote unquote therapist for 19 years, that my own experiential awareness around any topic really in life, any topic related to myself or to these deeper layers of life, the questions did not really start to emerge in a very serious way till like 39, 40, and that's when it got so awful for me, this life and this living, that it just forced me to ask deeper questions, like, who am I? What is this? Where do we come from? What's going on here? What are feelings? What is culture? How did it all come to be this way? And so it's just an effort to understand, right? And so let's just, again, in an effort to reflect, okay? We are a group of people living in a piece of land called America. Okay. We don't have to talk about people being here before us, but just fine. That's where we are. We came over here. Our fathers and mothers came over here from another continent, right? And on that continent, there were hundreds of years of living and changes in thinking, and you know what I mean? Revolutions. And so going back to that, something that we don't normally think about. So culture, maybe we'll just start with like defining it, right? All right. So it can be defined as a collection of beliefs, values, practices, customs, artifacts that characterize a particular group or society. It encompasses language, religion, cuisine, social habits, music, arts, reflecting the shared identity and heritage of its members. The shared identity and heritage of its members. Culture shapes how individuals perceive the world, interact with each other, and express themselves, influencing everything from daily life to social structures and traditions. It is a dynamic, evolving over time as societies change and interact with one another. Right. So here's some examples of, let's say, Western culture, which would include us. We're a legacy of that, right? Western culture, Western culture generally refers to practices that have developed in Europe and North America. Okay. And here are some examples. Language, English dominates the Western culture, right? So language, English, right? But that's the dominant. But as you said, French, Spanish, German. So language would define a culture. Cuisine, another thing, right? What we eat, where we eat it, the South, the North.
How we talk. So I think, as you're going through this in my mind, I'm around the world, and I'm also from county to county, state to state, region to region.
Yeah,
Okay,
amen.
so you bring up where we came from, Europe, all this. Yeah, so we bring all that to you. You can't. I guess you keep, when you migrate, you keep what is helping, quote unquote, the society grow and thrive. Think about the selfish gene. It's going to continue to, it's just going to keep trying to keep itself alive. So society itself probably has its own life. And to keep that alive, it wants to keep the good things. So we come over from Europe and we want to get rid of kings and lords, et cetera. That's something we're going to get the church off our backs. Some big things they put in our Constitution. So we can see that in writing, where they said, we want these parts of the culture that we brought with us. We don't want these parts that come. We've also had some foresight, and we want to implement these into our culture. If you just think of the Bill of Rights, all the things that they put in place there. So you can see it there, and then you can see it. I'm a Southern guy. I've always been a Southern guy. I grew up here. I'm probably, as it's looking, I don't know if I'm ever I'm ever going to move anywhere else.
Anywhere else.
I mean, dude, they're crazy everywhere else, right? And I listen. You don't have to identify with every part of a society. I sure don't with all the parts of the South. There's some hateful, disgusting, awful parts that are associated with it that I have tried to rebuke as an adult. Sometimes more fierce than others, but it's still who I am, and I can see it in how I season my food versus how somebody from the North wouldn't season their food. Actual foods that we eat versus foods. And I've learned over the years where that comes from. Why am I like that? Why do I like fried foods? And why do I want to over season my foods? Because in the South we were poor, and we had the shittiest of shit when it came to meat. And so when you fry shitty meat, it tastes a lot better than it does if you just do nothing and put it in a skillet. And so we over season it and we fried it. We move slower as a culture. Why? Because it's hot as shit. It always has been. We didn't used to have air conditioner, so people would ease through it. And I go to the north. I've been in New York City, not since I was young, but everybody's they're in such a hurry, bro. I don't know where the fuck they're going. Are they running like that to get to work? Are they trying to get to a date? Where are they going in such a hurry? And I don't get, but it's their culture. And then, you can shrink it down. Well, here in the South, in Davidson County, in Nashville, Tennessee, it's way different than if you go 2 counties over. even to just one county over to Wilson County, where we went to high school. Like it's different. Now, as areas grow, I think that kind of pushes itself out. That culture pushes itself out again. Society trying to keep what it thinks is going to make it grow and not. So that when you're defining that rigid definition, that's what I hear. And then we can look. So I think the best thing, and my partner has lived around the world, and she is just adamant that children should travel to other cultures and experience them so that they can see the differences. It gives gratitude and appreciation. It exposes you to how, bad some have it, and then they got it good in other ways. And, it also, I think, helps us see through some of the lies we're told. So we think, short example again on my partner's experiences. She lived in Costa Rica for a couple of years, and people in Costa Rica, ticas, the one who are from there, they don't live in big houses with every room with air conditioner and all that. They don't have building codes. They just put something together, the roof over their heads. But these people don't have stress. Porta Vida. They're going to live life. They're going to love life. They're going to live life. They're going to enjoy it. That's something that, as a Westerner, when you go there, here we go take our car to a mechanic, and we expect them to be busy and have delays, but we expect them to tell us what those delays are and work towards it. You do that over there, you drop a car off, and you'll see your car when he's damn ready to get to it and fix it. He ain't going to stress it, I can assure you. And if you're from there, you're not going to stress it either. And whoever it affects, because you don't have your car, they ain't going to stress it either. Nope. And as a result, they don't have stress. They're happy. Like, and they're one of the green zones. Like, they've got areas where people are living the longest, and they just don't have this weight of the bullshit. Back to the money. They don't need a big fancy house. They don't give two shits about what kind of car they drive. If they even have a car, they care about their animals, whether those animals are for food or for care, and they care about their families and friends. That's it. They don't care about the foreigners. They don't care about money. They don't care about power. They enjoy their culture. And as a Westerner, that's foreign as fuck to us, dude. That is foreign as shit to me.
Yeah. And then it poses the question,
Sounds delighting, but it's
why?
foreign.
So,
Yeah.
and that is the basis of our discussion, right? I really like this line of inquiry. It's just like just a line of questioning, really, right? Like investigation. So every culture, everywhere on the planet, okay, has this idea. Now, remember, we started the conversation by reflecting on how much pain everyone is in and how that pain is growing, how isolated and separated everybody is. Okay. All right. So that's how we started it, right? Okay. So all over the world, right, there is an idea that this life is a temporary affair, that there is more going on than is available to the five senses. Every culture says that. Every culture says we were somewhere else. This is an oversimplification, but now we're here. And then afterwards, there's somewhere else. It's every culture.
Every culture has that somewhere in it.
That basic story of who we are. Okay. All right. So let's come into, so do you understand? The culture tells its people when they come into the world, a being comes into the world, culture says, this is what's going on, and here's who you are, and here's what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and here's what it's all about. Here's why you are here, why we are all here, and here's what you need to do in order to like be okay. That's what this culture tells us. That it passes on that information through, not so much explicitly now, much of it's implicit. It's just modeling. And for us now, it's TV screens. So for us growing up, if you're over 35, it's like sitcoms and such. And so there's a lot of what we watched. So right, and then the educational system is another transmission of culture. Here's who you are. Here's what's going on, right? And then in our culture, the history is so false that we don't know history. Anyway, I digress.
Well, I wanted to say, like, there's not an I don't have an assumption that I came from something. It feels like that, but anybody that's told me that, I've kind of pushed away, that I came from something else, I became this, and I'm going somewhere else. So
Right. So, and let me, because within the Western culture, the primary story is one of randomness, and it's really secular and atheistic in nature.
okay.
The major emphasis is, you could call it, empiricism, meaning nothing can be known outside of the five senses. That's empiricism. It's a simple definition of it. Again though, these are things that we do not think a lot about. It's not something that's you know what I mean? So that we can only know what's known to the five senses is the essence of our culture. Even though all of us um, experientially, personally know that not to be true. Just like, take for instance, a person in a relationship and they know they're being cheated on. They know it in their bones, but they don't have the evidence for it for 6 months down the road. Right?
Or somebody in a relationship and they know that their partner's off,
Yeah.
whether it's,
Amen.
yeah,
You got it.
in any way.
You got
Hopefully,
it.
that's more people that are
Okay.
being
So
cheated on.
that's evidence. Here's how I would say that. Okay. That is evidence of the deeper reality of who we are and how interconnected everything is, and how we are connected to everything, and everything is connected to us. But our culture would have us believe that we're individuals in these separate little individual bubbles, living these individual lives with limited resources. Everything's a competition, and you have to battle to get what you need to get. It's one of the essences of our story. So the major cultural story, though, about how we got here is, so it has been set up in such a way that to even utter the word God either produces a form of trauma, an immediate form of resistance, or it's seen as unintelligent. It's seen as rudimentary type of human experience, very basic. These aren't things that we're very much attuned to, these ideas and these beliefs, but they affect us regularly. Regularly. The person that walks around thinking all the time about the future, trying to control everything, that is primarily because they exist in a culture that's told them there is no God. It's the primary reason, primary essence of it. You can go all over the world, all over the world, all over, and people can openly have conversations, use the word God, like it's to have discussions, and just freely talk about the deeper reasons for our being here, right?
When you say God, I think in our culture, I find, especially in the South, the word God is definitely a polarizing subject. But I don't know that God is the polarizing
There's a
piece of it.
reason for
It's
that.
the religion is the polarizing piece of it.
No, the cultural transmission of even the concept of religion at all is so tainted and polluted, and the expression of fear and trauma over centuries, that even the expression of it in this culture, even if it seems, listen, I'm not, so my sister and brother-in-law, they go to a great church. I know the pastor. I think he's a wonderful human being. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? But the message that everything you need and everything you need to know will be found inside your access point to a greater understanding of yourself, a deeper relationship with yourself, a deeper relationship with your purpose, and the meaning to all of it is found right inside, right? The whole kingdom of heaven is within notion. But the mechanics of that are not well known at all in modern day religious expression. And in our culture, that's what I mean. So within our culture, because culture is like gravity. If you imagined a diner, okay? Everybody in that diner, nobody's sitting around talking about the experience or the effect of gravity. It's just happening. It's ubiquitous. Okay. It's not until somebody floated off the ground that you know, oh shit, then you're experiencing the effects of gravity. Culture's like that. When you think about that same image of the diner, that whole entire scene is culture. The color of the building, the booths, do you know what I mean? What the people are talking about,
Yeah.
the clothes they're wearing, the music they're listening to, the ideas they have in their head. Do you know what I mean? And so how can humans exist so much together and in spaces together, and we don't ever really talk about the deeper questions here in this life, as like, who am I? Who are we? Where do we come from? What's that? You know what I mean? It's just not a part of our regular
No,
conversations on a day-to-day
no, and,
basis.
and I would say we're so far from that. It's so
Uh-huh.
obvious we're so far from that. I don't think that a lot of people step back and see how influential their telephone is, or their television is, or their inner whatever group it is that they're part of, whether it's a church group
Yeah,
or whatever, and how much of an influence that is on their thoughts and beliefs, which, we go into how that
yeah,
affects what we
yeah,
see and
yeah,
experience.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
way before we get to who am I, where did I come from, and all that, why did I buy this sweatshirt that I'm wearing and the hat that I got on? Why did I buy the microphone that I'm using and the computer that I'm sitting in front of? Like all of those things. The fact that we're even talking about this
Yeah.
is some effects we've been through.
When you distill down human values, like, what do we value? What is a value?
I would be based in a belief, wouldn't it?
Well, again, it's one of those things that isn't often
We don't even talk about that.
reflected on. So
Yes.
let's again, that's why this is just
Yeah.
partly a reflection to just show
So,
how much we don't talk about these things. So,
yeah.
okay, value. Well,
Yeah.
so what does that mean then?
What
It
do I
means,
even like? What do I like?
well,
What do I
let's
like
just
to
talk
do?
value. You can
Yeah.
look at what your behavior and your thinking is oriented towards, and that will maybe offer some evidence of what one is valuing currently. Now, these aren't, so maybe we often think about values as some sort of solid mass. So let's not think of them that way. Let's think of them as movable objects. Okay. All
Sure.
right. But because what's happening now, here's one way I would describe the collective pain. It's related to collective hypnosis. And right now, many people are being led by a cultural idea of what to value and what's important. And that's all related to external things. It's a simple way to say it. It's all related to what you can get. But the equation's backwards. As a human, it's really about what you can give. So fundamentally the value equation's off. So what do we value? You know,
And that, like you say,
money.
that changes. What do we value, and then why do we value? And that
Yeah.
changes from the time we're born to now. I guess I'm
You hope.
47, so it's continued to change.
You hope. You hope so. The thing is though, our culture has us so hypnotized that we're chasing a carrot that we never catch. And we're continually told it's because we don't have it in us to catch the carrot.
Which has negative impact on
And
our
that's not,
overall
yeah,
being.
it's not what's going on. So essentially, this culture currently is in a state of constant gaslighting. Constantly. We're constantly being gaslighted. So the system that is anti-life, anti-human, that stresses and strains and is run on greed and fear and manipulation, and right, it cannot let the population see it. So it tells the population it's a bunch of individuals that have a bunch of individual problems, and you have individual diagnoses, and that's what's really going on. You just can't cope. Okay, that's not it. The system's sick on all levels, broken on all levels, very sick. But it can't let itself be seen. So we don't even recognize that there's a thing called values. There's a thing, right, and that we're being driven by what we've been told. to
Right
chase
there.
after.
Yeah, right there. I think there is the gap between, and I'll speak on a personal level so that it doesn't sound like any form of judgment.
I could too. It's not.
The way I've been my entire life was I just was trying to get what I liked, which is quote unquote what I would value, I guess, if at the time I dug to it. But try to get what I like, and what does it take to get what I like? And so, okay, it takes this, and so then I would go do that. And what I never stopped. So I don't think a lot of people stop to say they think I like beer, or I like sitting on the couch, or I like going to the hockey game with my buddies, or whatever it is that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
doing that
Yeah.
they think that they like.
Yeah.
That's where it stops. I
Yeah.
enjoy doing X, and it stops right there. And all that you're saying, and that's what you're saying, but all you're saying is take it one step further. Why do you
Yeah.
like that?
That's
And
all
then
I'm saying.
start to, yeah, and then let that domino knock down all these other dominoes that are going to tell you, do you really like that? Or is that something that somebody else wanted you to like so that you would do what they wanted you to do? And it's not even, it's been subconsciously done through through parenting
Yeah.
as being a father.
Yeah.
The way I was parented and
Yeah.
grandparented. I can look back now and see how I was being taken down a path, and they were not doing it maliciously. I sure as hell wasn't doing it maliciously to my children. And this isn't some, I don't, I'm not an anarchist. I'm not suggesting that this is about anarchy. I'm suggesting that if we could all just stop and slow down for 1 second to say,
Yeah.
is this really what I like?
I'm even taking it. I'm saying it. So let me
And
sort
then
of
you can
paint
go deeper. It goes deeper
and
and
let me paint an
deeper.
image of actually the way I see myself in the frame. Let me paint an image. So we as a group of people, the reality is we have been intentionally manipulated. Our attention spans have been minimized, our natural impulses manipulated, and this is really what has happened. It's not conspiratorial. It's genuinely what's occurred. Right. And so I see myself, but my life, so it got bad enough for me within this culture that there had to be deeper questions asked. It's just the only reason they were asked. So there's no judgment. I'm standing on a ledge, reaching my hand down, saying, "Hey, brothers and sisters, we've been manipulated, and it's not your fault. Why you're not satisfied, why you're not happy, and you look around, and it seems like you should be, and it's not a failure. It's there is a reason for it, and it's because we've all been manipulated. So that's really where I see there's no judgment here. There's a total compassion and a plea. And it's likely that some things that I say and moving into the future will get tomatoes thrown at me because it is hard to see what's true. It's hard to really accept where we are and what's happened. So what I would say is you said it really perfectly. I think the pace of the living, which would be a reflection of culture, it has us moving too fast to see clearly
On purpose.
on purpose. And we're not denying that reality and how challenging it can be and how much pressure and tensions are on our life. We're just saying that, or I'm just saying that that many of those pressures and tensions have been imposed externally. They've been imposed through the idea of seeking happiness outside of oneself. So all of us can benefit from sitting down and trying to be still because the cultural message shows up in our inability to be still.
Yeah.
And to be in the flow of life. Why would we do that? We have to control everything. We live in a godless universe.
I just think, I'm me, and I'm going to continue to think like me. So I think as me. And when I hope the message that hits from this, and I wanted to bring it back from who am I, why am I here? Because that's pretty deep. And
Yeah.
you really don't want to start there. Just start it. And I'm so glad we got to value, because why do I value what I value? And, if you say, well, I value my children. Okay, do you? Is that what you spend all your time and focus on? Yeah, I go to work every day. Okay, you go to work every day. How many hours? 12. I work 12. I'm going to work myself to the bone, 12 hours a day. All right, cool. You go to 12 hours a day. And is that producing what you need? No, I mean, I could work a second job. Okay. So you could probably do better maybe with your time and how that time produces more money, because that would be because you want your kids to do this or that and you can't afford it. You can chase that to death. When we think we value something, if we really boil it down, do I really value it? Like, I value my health. Well, do you? I just saw you eat a piece of bacon and drink a Coca-Cola. Do you really value your health? You value it more than the guy who's using cocaine and heroin at the current time, right? You're valuing it more than them. I get it. But you're not valuing it more than the Tom Brady. That guy's going to live to 200. Like, because he spends a lot of his resources on his body and health. And, I don't know Tom Brady. Obviously, I probably never will know him, but so I don't know where he is on balance as far as, but there's definitely, when we say we value something, so I guess it's two questions. What do you value? Next, why do you value it? And B, do you really value it? So 3 questions, I guess. That was 3. I threw a letter in there trying to fuck you up, but it was still 3 questions. So, because not only has culture defined it for us and put us on that, I think we fool ourselves into saying that we value something we don't really value. It's a lie that we're telling ourselves. So I would say I valued my children. Well, now looking back, one of my biggest regrets is I didn't value my children like I could have and should have. And whether it's in
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
moment
yeah,
and
yeah,
experiencing,
yeah,
when you're a
yeah,
parent of young children, how
yeah.
fucked up everything is.
And let me
And
let me let me put this into our filter really quick while you said that. Okay. All right. So let's take the mom or the dad. All right. And let's remove any situation where if I don't go into that job, I'm not paying the rent to put the roof over these kids' head. Okay. So, but the reason that reality exists is because of our cultural hypnosis of individualism and competition. That's why it exists, man. So let's say this. Let's say that you're a mom or a dad, and it's not the situation that you couldn't dedicate a little more time over here to your kids. Okay, all right. But even though you want that, you imagine it, but you can't get off your phone. You
that's right.
can't get off Facebook, or
Yeah.
you can't. Do you understand? Okay, so there's no judgment here. I promise. I'm giving an example. Or um, you can't not get off your emails. You can't not go into work. You
Right,
understand?
right.
So let me explain what's happening there. A legacy of our cultural story that has us focusing on everything outside of us is we are not aware of the energies and the dynamics that actually animate us as human beings. We're not aware of the energies that are related to our desire for safety and connection, right? We're not aware of these energies that animate us and move us inside. And if we're unaware of those, guess what? They're going to be we're going to be animated and moved from the outside. That's the way it works. We're gonna be moved by what we have been told to move by. We're going to move in the direction of acquiring things that we've been told we need. So that person that sits there and is on the phone, they don't feel in their body the reason why they're on the phone and the reasons why we have to consistently be distracted. We can become aware of things that contribute to that.
Yeah, exactly.
So our
Yeah.
culture would have us not be aware
Yeah.
of our interior life, which is the only place life is for us. And it would have us be paying attention to everything external.
Yeah, and I think on this sticking to the value subtopic. So, what do I value and why? Is that really me valuing it? How did I even get to that? And then, do I really value it? So, to your point, is going to work 12 hours a day. I understand right now you don't quit your job. So, if you're listening to this and you hear this, we're not suggesting you quit your job, but figure out a way to modify that shit. Figure out a way to make it different. If that means you got to go learn something, or get certified in something to make it different, to where you have less hours at work, making more money, and you spend more time and stuff with your child, then you're really valuing the child. We lie to ourselves and say, I value my child, but really we don't. We value going to make the money, because that's where we're
No,
spending
we,
all
but
our
here's no.
energy.
Here's what I would say. Here, I'm going to say it differently. We actually value spending time with our children and being a part of their development. Okay, that's what the value is. But because of conditioning and our inability to know what we're feeling and what we're thinking and what we're believing, and in this moment, what we're considering to be of value, we don't have the capacities to really question and look at those things. And so I'm sitting there with my child, and there's all these tensions in my system, which are
Right.
actually fear, but I don't know that because my culture has conditioned me to look outside of myself always. And so when that fear comes up, and now my attention moves out towards the job or the thing that I said or the thing that this person said, now I have to do something to fix that thing. I don't actually go towards my own body and deepen my breathing and try to relax and know that it's okay. So I can just stay there, right there, present with my child. Now I am lost in my own wounds and triggers and traumas, and I'm not present.
That's what needed to be put together right there.
Yeah,
That's how I'm trying to get that out. We
yeah,
want to focus on what we value, and that's spending time with, we'll just say we'll stay on the child. That's spending time with the child. But then we get so damn distracted with everything else, we don't actually do that.
yeah.
And we say that we're doing all these other things so we can, but it
Uh-huh.
never, in that's the whole point of this whole topic, is that's it. And when you see just that little window of, oh shit, that is happening, that's the window that you can slide open and walk in and take the dive into yourself.
Yeah,
Stuff that we talk about here on this podcast, somatic work, where you're working on your whole self, your whole body, just dig in, and more and more and more answers will make themselves available. And,
yeah,
I'm telling my 11-year-old totally different things than I told my 21 and 23-year-olds when they were 11.
yeah,
And it's because I get better. I try to get better every day and try to learn more. And I mean like we're talking about here, like totally different. What are you focused on? Heard Gary Vee talking about somebody, what would you tell your 18 to 23-year-old self? And the idea that we have this set thing that we're supposed to do and we have to do and all that, no, we're here to have experience and learn and grow. And in that age, that's what you got so much more time. You can focus on just that, just the growth, just the experience. And so then you can look back and not have regret. And that again boils down to a topic I talk a lot about anyway. And that is, let's get to the end of life, laying in that deathbed, and look and say, I did good. I tried my hardest. I learned. I wasn't just a zombie that a culture was able to pull around as it saw fit. And we have not once said why the culture is doing that, or, a certain side is right and a certain side. It's all the sides are doing all the same thing. They're just using different ways to get to us. And
it's way beyond sides.
yeah. Yeah.
What I'm touching into is actually what produces sides.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes all deep. It's so deep. But if we just start there, because
Yeah,
I want people to be able to hear this, and then to hear more that we have to say about the latter part of the dive inside, because I think if maybe, I don't know, my son died. So I was like you, I was fucked, and I had to find a different spot. So out of desperation, we will find new ways and new places and new things. But for somebody, if they could really stop and say, what do I like, and is that really what I value? And then what do I value and why do I value it? And am I really paying all of my attention and focus on that, or am I being pulled 1,000 ways away from that value or those values, that set of values? And if it is the latter, where you are being pulled away, then really look at that. We'll try here to continue down this path to explain how we've dealt with it personally, Jason is very educated and stays up on reading down on this stuff. So, we'll have conversations as far as that goes. And of course, we'd encourage you to do your own looking into and understanding, because if you find it yourself, it helps you. But just know there's a lot. And, you see the matrix in your damn head. We're not in a floating vat of that we know. We're not in a floating vat of water with a thing plugged into the back of our heads, but it is pulling on us all the time. Mr. Smith is always right around the corner, and it's the devil, it's Mr. Smith, it's whoever the boogeyman is that can scare our asses back into getting the phone back up, getting back in front of the TV, distracting ourselves from focusing on what's really important. And I think it all boils down to giving and receiving love. And you see success in current literature, so books being written currently. My mom was talking about a homeless lady who had kind of pushed through and made it, and her book's all about love. And I was like, well, that's it. That's the core thing. We want to give and receive as much love as possible, and that's just a core of that. And I think fear.
Yeah.
So I think next we can move into. Okay, so we'll have a topic that from value. All right, so now I have values. I know what my values are. I'm very strong on them, but oh shit, I'm not really focusing on that. I thought I was by trying to make more money, but that pulls me away so much from what I actually value. So my focus, time, energy, everything is getting everything other than what I value is getting all my time and energy. How do I fix that? So we'll jump to that. So what's the next step on how do I fix that? So we'll jump to that on the next topic. Jason, I appreciate your insight as always, and your ability to take an idea and put it together in words. To me, it hits. I'm hopeful that it hits with others and it sinks in like it does with me. And for you listening, we're sure appreciative of your time. We value it. We know it's your most important asset. We hope we added value to it today. Until next time, we hope you have an awesome day.